Hi, my name's Ben, and like a lot of people, I have a favourite animal, the owl. But also, like most people living in the UK, I've never really seen a wild owl. Almost all of our native owl species are in decline. So I've set out on a bit of a crazy mission to try and not only see, but film and photograph every single one of our native owl species. I've also only got 1 year to do it, so wish me luck.
Winter brings around the start of my owl-based adventure, looking for Britain's most common owl, but weirdly, one the most rarely seen, the tawny owl. Their distinct call can be heard across the countryside, so I started by walking the woodlands around my house. And walking. And walking. Until one morning, as a lighter day made its way into the wood, I finally found what I was searching for. Tawny owls prey on small mammals in the undergrowth. It's not easy to fly in this dense, tangled world, but tawnies have evolved short wings, giving them amazing manoeuvrability between the trees. Not that this owl is currently showing off such acrobatics. After so much effort to find him, I'm feeling just as tired, and head home to finally get some sleep. Unfortunately, this was the last I saw of my local tawny. I know, a fantastic start. I found one owl. Once. Worried about where my tawny had gone, I headed to an owl sanctuary to find out more about what could have gone wrong for him. It turns out owls in Britain face many challenges. Collisions with cars, loss of their homes and habitat. Some are even shot. The experts at the sanctuary said I could help by looking out for owls while driving at night and supporting the restoration of their habitats. But most excitingly, I can build my own owl box to give them somewhere safe to nest. It's worth pointing out my woodworking skills are rather non-existent. By nothing short of a miracle, the box came together. The hatch even opened the second time. 8 meters in the air and fitted with a motion-sensitive camera, the box should be the perfect home for a tawny owl. And this will hopefully also improve my chance of filming them. I then put some other cameras in places a tawny owl may visit, hoping to improve my luck. Don't get too excited, it's an owl, but not the one I was aiming for. Somehow, looking for a tawny, I had found the next owl on my list, the barn owl. Early the next morning, I set out to find it. I don't want to disturb these Category 1 protected birds, so I stick to the main pathways, keeping an eye out for their characteristic ghostly silhouette. Their protected status also means I can't show you their true location, so apologies for a lack of sweeping landscapes. I set up the camera and waited, until at last I was treated to my first proper sight of a wild barn owl. Usually only ever seen as a flash of white with the naked eye, filming in slow motion allows us to appreciate the majesty of their flight. While undoubtedly beautiful, the barn owl is also a formidable predator. Specialised feathers on the trailing edge of the wing dampen the sound of their wing beats, meaning the barn owl flies in near silence, undetectable by their ground-dwelling prey. Couple this with hearing that can pick out a shrew's heartbeat from 30 feet, and you have one of the most highly tuned predators in the world. It's a rather unlucky day to be a vole. This owl has 4 young chicks at home, so one vole won't stretch very far, but that evening, as the sun goes down, the owl picks up the pace. Truly a day I am never going to forget. The barn owl is an icon of Britain, but their numbers plummeted to a critical point in the 1980s, after the advance of industrialised farming, which wiped out much of their hunting grounds. Through concerted conservation efforts since, numbers are now growing, and I want to find out more. But first, an interlude. I've seen a cool bit of kit that allows the interviewee to see my face while looking down the lens. I can't afford to buy it, so I built my own and roped in a friend to test it.
Can you see me?
No.
Fantastic.
A quick redesign and the second iteration worked much better. I was ready to go talk barn owls. This is Mark. And this is Dan. I met them, along with my friend Charlotte, in a random barn for something very, very exciting. Ringing of chicks is the main way barn owl numbers are monitored. I admit the process does look pretty invasive, but it's done with the bird's health as a top priority, and gives us invaluable data on where they are and what they do. I can't get involved. There are many levels of training and licensing needed, so Mark shows me how it's done.
Barn owls take two different sizes of rings. They can take a G ring or an F ring, depending how big the leg is. So all we do is a quick rough measurement of the leg, which tells us that it's a G ring. So that's its unique identifier. So this bird travels anywhere, is found dead or found alive. That ring traces it back to this barn here today. So that's its ring, perfectly fitted, that will live for it for life. You can tell if they're male or female. So the females are very dark and the males are very pale. These flight feathers here are all nice and pale. I think this is probably a male. Yeah, so you can see this one's got some spotting on the underneath of its wing. So this is the female.
Now I think that's fascinating, but how does it help the species? After meeting Mark, I was feeling pretty positive. 2 owls filmed already, and some fascinating people met. And then, my poor little car gave up the ghost. So, it's back to the real world for me, working full time to earn enough money to buy another car and keep the project afloat. At last, a breakthrough. A pair of little owls just about within walking distance of my house. How about a game of Spot the Little Owl, perfectly camouflaged against this traditional stone-built wall? A wonderfully animated creature. I seem to be locked in a never-ending game of peekaboo. After making sure her feathers are perfectly preened, breakfast is the next thing on her mind. As the name suggests, these are the smallest of our owls, and their prey is appropriately sized. Unlucky for this earthworm. She clocks it, and a quick hop, jump, and breakfast is served. This little owl sleeps in an old rabbit burrow in the base of the wall, but her day roost is rather more grand. A rundown barn is the perfect place to warm up on this early June morning. Snoozing through the day, the last light of dusk heralds the start of her evening hunt, and off she goes. "70% of the UK is farmland. Huge monoculture fields that limit homes and food for wildlife. And while some farmers are changing to more nature-friendly farming methods, the threat to all of our grassland species is still there. Now I just need to convince Mum that turning our garden into a wildflower meadow is a good plan. I could have spent many more hours in the sun with the little owls, but I was excited to get on, because after all the long shifts at work, I could finally buy a car. Time to track down the last 2 owls before summer ends for good. On to the short-eared owl. This type of scrubby, moorland landscape is their ideal habitat. I know there's no shortage of prey for them here, as last winter I was here on a small mammal survey and we found these clumps of grasses tightly woven together. Little day nests made by harvest mice, and the larger ones made by voles. The owners of these nests were long gone, so I could pick them up without disturbing anyone, but now they will again be home to many small, cute animals out on the moorland. Perfect prey for the short-eared. Back to the present to see if the owls have arrived. The signs were certainly there. Graceful, dramatic, purpose-built predator... That was the least dramatic thing ever. Let's try again. Graceful, dramatic, purpose-built predators they soar over the early morning moor. The short-eared owl has proportionally long wings compared to its body size, which they need to cover a large hunting ground on these open moors. In this brighter light, they can spot a vole from almost a mile away, and once detected, the vole's fate is sealed. Or not. I think I need to find a better owl. Okay, maybe he's not so bad at this after all. With the sun rising, he heads home to share his second vole with his partner in their nest, hidden within the heather. Remember the owl sanctuary? They also have a short-eared owl, so we can see where they get their name. Their ears are tiny feathered tufts, held flattened back against their head, almost invisible, even this close up. This short-eared came to the sanctuary missing most of its right wing. I'm not sure what happened here, but with a territory that often overlaps with private estates, they can meet with severe persecution. And nobody knows more about this than the voice behind Raptor Persecution UK, Ruth Tingay.
All birds of prey in the UK are protected by law. They have been since 1954. But even though they have this legal status, a lot of them are still illegally killed, including the short-eared owl. The problem is that a lot of gamekeepers perceive those birds of prey as being a threat. What they don't want to happen is have birds of prey coming along and taking those game birds that are available to paying guests to be shot. Short-eared owls particularly are the most at a threat. They're the only ground nesting British owl. What we've seen happening, gamekeepers have been shooting short-eared owls, and usually what they do with them is stamp their bodies into the peat. Not all grouse moors are killing them, but it tends to happen on those moors that are the most intensively managed for driven grouse shooting. I've worked in the field of raptor conservation for a long time. I didn't want to work in the UK because I thought birds of prey were protected, but I came back to work in Scotland and they kept talking about this issue of raptor persecution. And I was just amazed that this was going on, and secondly that I didn't know about it.
A sobering thought. But what can we actually do?
Anything suspicious, report it. Report it, first of all, to the police. But I'd also encourage people to report it to the RSPB investigations team. Really, the bottom line is just to keep raising awareness, because there's still a lot of people who don't know that this goes on.
This shot of falling leaves is to show that summer finally came to an end, rather than just saying that summer came to an end, which now I have. Anyway, summer came to an end. Looking back, things have gone well this year. I only have the long-eared left to film, and a few months of cold weather to scout my local area for possible locations. Nothing could ruin my plans.
Things are kind of not going to plan. My parents have made the decision to sell the house. I'm sure wherever we move to we'll have so much wildlife and hopefully still some owls. But it does mean trying to find my last owl on the list is going to be a bit more difficult. I had some locations around here, places where the habitat looked right, but moving somewhere new, all of this is going to go out the window. This film really could just fail.
With the only visitors so far being, well, not owls, I take down the box and move it with me. After nearly dropping everything, we finally got the box down. Now just to pack everything else and hit the road. In the snow! Oh, didn't I mention? Yeah, I'm moving to Scotland.
We've been here before, barefoot jumping the fence, backed up to a wall, holding our defense. Our eyes are blinded by the sun, and the pain makes us want to run. It's time to get away out of the boring.
Welcome to the middle of nowhere. I can't explain how incredibly beautiful this place is. On my first night there, as the stars came out, the call of a tawny owl rang through the valley. I was determined to get that box back up the next morning. Despite the Scottish rain nearly killing my camera, the box was up. But these short winter days are not the time to be looking for owls. My search for the last owl, the long-eared, will have to wait. Our rarest owl, there are only 1,500 long-ears left in the whole of the UK, which obviously makes them the hardest to film. I wasn't getting anywhere on my own, so as a last resort I messaged local photographers and friends, hoping, praying someone would have a lead, even if it meant the long drive back to where I used to live. They didn't, and then the rain got worse.
As if things could get worse. We're now in spring. A couple of months have passed. I'm no closer to finding a long-eared owl. I've been scouting locations, but in a place I barely know. I have no idea where to start. On top of that, the weather has been stereotypically British, so I've had to deal with drizzle and rain and everything that not only I don't like, but neither do the owls. I mean, the long-eared owl is Britain's rarest owl. It shouldn't be a surprise, it's hard to find. But I don't know what happens to this film if I don't find the last owl. It's going to be a film of Britain's 4 owl species, and the one I never found. And to add insult to injury, the tawny owl box I put up, I've checked the memory card earlier today, still had nothing nesting in it, so didn't do any better here than did in the Peak District. I put the card back in, you can still hope, but probably not in this film. Yeah. Not sure where I go from here.
I've been searching everywhere for leads, but the year is slipping away and I'm still nowhere closer. I really don't. I'm going to bed. Or maybe not. I finally got a location for the last owl, which is unbelievably good. It's just in England, not Scotland, which means a very long drive to go and find it. And even the car lights have given up. Fantastic. Let's go. I'm excited. This really could be it. But diesel isn't exactly cheap. If I don't find any owls, I can't afford to drive down again. After 8 hours of driving, I'll be amazed if I can actually stay awake to film them. Come on, owls, please be there. I have absolutely no words. Britain's rarest owl, and I think the most beautiful. Such an incredible privilege to witness this moment, on a perfect morning. What a way to end this quest. And things got even better as she kept hunting into the brighter light of the day to feed her growing chicks. Following the hungry calls of her chicks, she heads to her nest, nestled deep in the wood. Her largest chick, however, seems less interested in the life and death antics of its mother, having a scratch in the early morning sun.
That's it. The final owl. I'm done. That's every shot. Every owl. It's going to be a fun edit though, isn't it?
Arriving back in Scotland, I checked the box camera one last time. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but my box has a resident tawny owl. With renewed motivation, I started the edit. The days faded together as I resisted the urge to throw my laptop out of the window. But finally, I was done. And now to show my toughest critics.
Could have brushed your hair.
I was going to say, he can't do that because there's no way that Ben can walk in a straight line and look at the sky without tripping over. I've seen it, he turned his head. That's brilliant. Well, again, that worries me, that they'd get trod on during the day.
All those signs about nesting birds.
Yeah.
You don't think of it being
Owls.
owls, but
No, exactly. Feels like it was worth it.
Yeah.
There's lots of people waiting to see this.
That's not
No
scary
pressure.
at all.
This project has taken me to the wildest and most wonderful areas of Britain. It's been very challenging, but I've seen more than I ever expected. I've seen the beauty and brutality of a resident owl species, and learned of threats I never even knew existed. Along the way, I've met some incredible characters, both feathered and not. My love and respect for owls is stronger than ever. Over the last year, I've probably spent more time with owls than I have humans, which truthfully I kinda like. A childhood dream come true, and a message. No matter the size of your project, to just commit. Go find your owl. As for me, well, I think I've seen an eagle up in the mountains. Sequel, anyone?